Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Bloodborne Blood Level 4, New Game +6, all bosses. This is the living failures without taking damage and without rolling. So usually I put a little introduction on these videos where I talk about the boss, and I do it in a little vignetted mode, to make it look a little bit, different from the main video. I don't have to do that with this, because this fight is 20 minutes long. And you might have just spat your coffee then, because I know I would have, if I'd have realised it was going to take this bloody long. So, the living failures have an incredible threshold for damage on this New Game cycle. And if you're wondering why it's New Game +6 instead of 7, folks, New Game +6 is the 7th journey, and it's where the difficulty caps. There's a bit of a misnomer when it comes to Souls difficulty, and as far as Bloodborne is concerned, this is the highest echelon of modifier for challenge. After this, every single New Game Plus cycle is this level of difficulty repeated, there's no increases afterwards. Anybody who tells you any different doesn't know what they're talking about. It's just how the game works. So, there was two things I wanted to do on this fight. I wanted to use Rapid Poison because I'd seen Dargan Souls using it, and I'd had a conversation with him in my live stream, and he said that, it kind of wrecks this boss, along with Murgo's Wet Nurse, and that is exactly what I decided to do. The problem with stacking Rapid Poison is that you have to hit these fellas quite a few times, and the second thing I wanted to do in this encounter is I wanted to not use the Sunflower to avoid the second phase meteorite attack. And because I'm not rolling, it means that I have to play like a bitch this entire fight, and the only way that I found consistently to get away from the meteorites without using the plant was to hide in kind of the alcove of where Maria's clock tower door is. And it leads to a very defensive, very awkward battle that you're about to witness. And at the moment, we're 2 minutes in, I've taken out a decent amount of damage, it's all going quite smoothly. The problem here is simple. These enemies have the ability to damage cancel into slams. And if you don't know what that means, Bloodborne has this wonderful feature where when you're attacking an enemy, the enemy can read the input of you attacking and immediately go into this priority attack that is designed to catch you out. And normally when you play the game you can roll or you can dash, and when you do that you cancel your own attacks and you get away from these moves, and that's what makes it doable, and that's probably why you've never really noticed it too much when you've played. Well, when you can't roll and you're doing no roll, what do? You can't cancel your animations, you're stuck in the attack, you're just kinda there, and as much as you try and run away, a lot of the times it just doesn't work. So it leads to these moments right now where I'm afraid to attack more than once, because at any moment these fellas can instantly go into something that might ruin this run. So it leads to a very passive approach. And you want to get aggressive, and believe you me folks, there were attempts on this where I was super aggressive, it looked amazing, and then I got slammed, or I got tickled, or I got some bullshit happened and I got hit. And it's just one of those things. There is a world where I did this fight in about 6 minutes and I was super aggressive and it all went my way. But that's just not the recording that I got. So instead you're going essentially to see a clinic on how to fight this boss in the least optimized way. Because I'm going to be picking my opportunities, I'm going to be watching everybody else, making sure that, the damage opportunities I take are the ones I know I can take. And there are a host of ones I am not taking, which I could take, but it's all about confidence and it's all about awareness. It'd be nice if these enemies had HP above their heads so you could see when they're going to die, and you could plan your attack accordingly. Because there's one great strategy in this fight that you saw me do at the beginning, but you won't see me do too much. When these enemies are spawning, they have active hurt boxes, so you can hit them. And you can get enough damage on them to kill them, if you're fast enough, when they first start climbing up. And you can then kind of farm spawns, and just spawn kill them as they stand up. And if you use pellets, and if you've got good damage, you can kind of do that and take off massive chunks really, really quickly. But once again, it was part of my restrictions to do something a little bit different with this fight. And I don't like this fight. I don't think it's the worst fight in the game, but I just feel like there should be more to this, or there should be less. And I know that sounds contradictory, but let me explain. If these enemies did more things, and they had more recovery, and they had more damage openings, it'd make sense. In a traditional Souls sense, when something attacks, it generally has recovery. In Bloodborne, not so much. Whereas I feel like these guys could have big recovery, but they could also have big moves. That would make this more interesting to me. Or additionally, make it so that the melee guys are the only ones who can physically attack. But they've got, you know, a vast suite of moves, 5 or 6 different techniques that they can do. You know, give them a jump, give them something interesting. But make sure that the ones who cast magic can't do that. Make it sure the magic guys are incredibly dangerous at range, but if you get close to them, there's nothing they can really do. But then give them maybe a teleport, or a backdash. Give them something defensive that isn't a threat, but makes them awkward. And that way, it leads into a dynamic where each of these enemies has a different range of capability, but neither of them does everything. As it stands, the dudes firing magic can do all the melee attacks that the melee guys can do. So why can't the melee guys do all the fucking magic, you know? That's like the only restriction in this boss. And it leads to moments like now, where, right then, in another world, I could have hit him a few more times, but look what he's doing. He's doing that really wide sweeping slash attack that has 2 hits. And you might be watching and thinking, Chris, why aren't you parrying? Well, parrying's pretty good, but at the same time, I'm not doing the damage I would do if I'd stacked normal attack. I'm using rapid poison, so the parrying is kind of a luxury that I don't mess with too much. And normally, I parry these bosses a lot. Same with backstabs. Backstabs can be effective because you can use the iframes from the visceral attack to kind of keep you in the pocket. But I get caught coming out of these animations so many times I stopped doing them. And it's really unfortunate. You'll notice here, I keep moving up to these steps. My ambition is to get the melee guys to chase me up to the steps, so there's the biggest void between us and the other guys firing magic. So when I come back through the field, I'll be able to catch these guys doing a summon much like he's doing just there. And on these moments, you'll notice a lot of these magic attacks can actually go through the sunflower, which is a little strange that they do that, but I suppose it's just how it works. But for instance right now, did you see how it looked like I could have ran up to that dude then and smacked him on the hand? I probably could have, but he could have done a move, and if I smack him and he does a move, I don't have the time or the space to get away from it, unless it's a move that can be moved around, and I read it immaculately and I counter it instantly, which is way too heavy execution on something like this. And that's why it led to a fight being this long, because instead, I should have attacked that one more, but that guy was coming. Did you see him? That's one of the things you're going to learn when you do this fight like this. The one thing you learn is the moment you get greedy, another one of these dudes will run up and smack you, and it happens so frequently. I don't know, it'd be so cool, like, can you imagine if you could break their legs, and all you did was attack each of them in the leg a few times, and keep circling around attacking them in the leg, and then when you broke the leg, they dragged the leg, and it slowed them down? You could slow the melee guys, and go after the magic fellas. That'd be a cool dynamic, right? But instead, it lives up to its name. This boss is a failure in my opinion, because it fails to be interesting. And it's just like Shadows of Yharnam. Shadows of Yharnam is a boss that's kind of depressing me at the moment, because the idea of doing this against them is going to take a while. And not only is it the longest run back in the game, but it's my least favourite fight in the game, because it's very difficult for reasons that I can't really control. It's difficult because they're all a bunch of cunts, they've got tons of life, and when they start doing bloody spaghetti arm, you know, you might as well just turn the bloody game off. But here comes the synchronised Jesus, you know, calling to the cosmic above, calling to beyond. I stand by this door, and I don't get hit by meteorites. Funny story, I've actually been hit by a meteorite stood at that door, so it's not a consistent strategy, but it works. And then we proceed onwards now, and here's where the fight gets really tense. Because I feel like in the second phase, each of these dudes starts to be a bit more of an knobhead. So they start to be a little bit more cavalier, a little bit more callous and aggressive, and your openings seem to cut themselves in half unless you're very confident or very lucky, and a lot of the times you need a combination of both. I've seen people use poison knives in this fight, I've seen people use shaman bone blades, I've seen a whole host of strategies on this particular encounter. But right now, because I'm trying to get all the way over here, and I'm not able to do full combos on them, I'm not able to proc the bleed. And that's the problem that I'm going to have. When you hide behind the sunflower, you can oftentimes just wail on one of the aliens while that's happening, and you can do incredible damage to them. But due to the restriction that I wanted to try, it meant that my biggest damage opening didn't exist. And you might ask, Chris, why did you do that? You know, why did you decide to do something when you knew it would cut your damage in half? I guess I expected to find something better than standing like a coward in an air raid shelter next to Maria's door. I don't know, I thought maybe I'd be able to suss out the pattern of the meteorites, but the only pattern I managed to suss out was that there didn't seem to be a bloody pattern. And who knows, maybe there is. There's a lot of very, very gifted Bloodborne players, far better than myself, who've maybe sussed all this out. But when I make these videos, I don't want to watch their videos because I feel like I'll just emulate what they do rather than suffering and understanding the boss and kind of learning my own path. And when you do that, you go back and you watch a bunch of other people on YouTube do these fights in similar restrictions, and they do similar strategies to you because it's just the best ones that people find. And it happens a lot. You know, it's one of those things. But this fight's a piece of shit. It has to be said. Like, out of all the fights in this DLC, this is the only one that I would change. And don't get me wrong, you know, if I could really change shit, I'd change them all, because I'm like that. But for the most, this is just... This could have been so much better. It really could have. But when you think about it, all the cosmic fights in Bloodborne are kind of shitty, right? The only one who's good is Immaculate, because Rom's a bag of dicks. Rom is just a really stupid space potato that's cosplaying Don King. He's worthless. Nobody likes him unless you're Miyazaki. The Celestial Emissary is just beyond bizarre, but not even a boss, really. It's just a very strange occurrence. And then, of course, this, which is a big shower of shite. And then you have Immaculate, or Abritus, as some people say, who is amazing. A really, really interesting fight. And the only part of her design that I despise is the passive frenzy damage at the end. And I don't know why that's in the game. I wish I could delete the code and remove that, because it's kind of preposterous, but alas, that's what they wanted. And it forces players to break her body parts in such a rhythm that you skip that phase. And it's just unfortunate, because I really liked that fight, and I wish I could embarrass her for longer, but instead I end up taking chip damage and it ruins my no damage. As we entertain these fellas and get a couple hits. You'll notice I'm getting a little bit more cavalier here, trying to proc the bleed. I'm doing 1 to 4 hits on them, but it's just not enough. You know, just like Carl Urban in Chronicles of Riddick, it is not enough! And it sucks. So here we are, 12 minutes deep, another 8 minutes, guys. I hope you're excited. But it's such a time sink. What was I watching when I was playing this? I was watching Stargate SG-1. It was probably like season 4 or 5, somewhere along those lines. And I wasn't paying much attention to the game, to be honest, because this fight's boring as tits. And if you've wondered, I played all these fights without using audio. A lot of people find that quite strange. It's just one of those things that I can do. It doesn't bother me. Some fights I need audio for, like the Queen, because I need to know when the baby's crying to understand when I'm about to get fraped. But for the most, yeah, every single fight you've seen me do on this run has been without audio cues. It's just one of those things that... I've been playing games for such a long time, guys, that just completely 100% paying attention to the game bores my tits off. That's not a reflection of the game, because Bloodborne's amazing, and I can definitely do it. It's just the idea of it, I kind of go, but I could be watching this TV show and progressing that, because I like to do, you know, more than one thing at once. And at the moment, I've been watching a ton of Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, so what better motivation to beat bosses up in Bloodborne than JCVD, right? But here comes the meteorites. We get back over there. Somebody's just kind of stood. I wonder if they're having trouble with Maria. They've died a few times. They need to go take an angry piss. He's using what looks like some kind of saw weapon, so he's definitely using the right tools, in my opinion. Because people ask that a lot. Why are you using the saw cleaver? Why are you using the saw spear? And it appears that they don't seem to realise that there's a reason why the speedrunners use these weapons. Even though these aren't beasts, and even though the serrated bonus isn't helping us, this weapon's utility is so vastly superior to most weapons in this game that it's hard to argue that any of the other weapons are better. Situationally, I can think of a few weapons that have some good advantages, but for the most, the saw cleaver is good at everything and bad at almost nothing. It's kind of crazy, and I think a lot of the people that don't seem to understand this are the people that have never tried the no leveling runs, because at level 1, or at level 4 in this game's case, you can't use much. You can kind of use like 3 weapons. You can use the cane, you can use the axe, you can use the saw spear, and you can use the saw cleaver. I don't think you can use anything else. You might be able to, but I don't think you can. Like, I've got a Blood level 10 build, and he uses all kinds of fun stuff, but That is one of the changes I would love to see in Souls games. I would love to see an upgrade path that kind of removes the level stipulations on the weapons. It'd be really nice if the raw upgrade path took away level restrictions, because it takes away scaling, so why not let level 1 use everything? Because at the end of the day, if you're worrying about balance, when you're level 1 you can only swing some of those weapons once or twice because they're so stamina intensive, and the recovery on half that stuff is so ridiculous that you wouldn't want to go nuts, right? And it'd just mean that for the people who don't like leveling up and like to take this game on with that extra level of challenge, would be able to do so and use everything in the game. Like, that's what I loved about Demon Souls. Demon Souls let you use shit you couldn't even wield. It was crazy, and it wasn't as effective, but in that game, if you use the Northern Regalia at level 1, it's more effective than any other level 1 weapon just because how ridiculously powerful that weapon is. So, you can't use that sword, but it's so goddamn strong that even with 100% no ability to wield it, it's still better than your second option. That's how cool Demon Souls was. And I think people forget just a lot of the cool shit that was in Demon Souls, because it was a fantastic game. It just runs like garbage and the emulator's not up to scratch yet. But the moment it is, guys, I'm definitely going to be doing some level 1, New Game Plus 6 or 7, pure Black World tendency, you know, crazy shit in that game. I'll get to fight King Alant without going on that stupid elevator every time. Can't wait for that day. Then again, I can't wait for an emulator for the PlayStation 4 so we can play fucking Bloodborne without the garbage load times and the garbage frame pacing and the garbage frame rate and everything that this game frustrates me with. Like, just imagine putting a nice save state at a boss fog and fighting the bosses rather than doing a million runbacks. The beauty of that, right? But we're 17 minutes deep. You'll notice my damage output has got pretty bad right now. And I wanted to change my weapons to put on one of my other weapons that's actually physically based, but I was kind of panicking and I didn't want to get hit by something stupid, so I ended up putting on the cane, and I buffed the cane, see if the buff would make much of a difference. Turns out, doesn't make much of a difference. These dudes have got big life, and my gems on this weapon aren't very good. But, you know, desperate measures and all that. But look, 136 damage, immediately swap it off. Not a good idea at all, but I was getting frustrated. Interesting, when I was doing this, it didn't feel like a 20-minute fight. I was kind of in that mood where I just focused on the fight, I focused on watching the TV, and I kind of nulled it. Wasn't even, you know when you're not really thinking about it, you're just doing? It was like that. And when it was done, and I was very grateful for it to be done, I was like, oh, thank God, it's done. And then I checked the videos, that was 20 minutes long. Oh. So, yeah, probably the most shameful living failures on YouTube right now. But I'm in no rush to go back to get like a nice 4-minute fight. Because, let's face it, this is shit, right? The people that like this fight must like it because it is so goofy and stupid. I like a fight that, you know, can kick my ass, but I feel like it's fun. That's why I didn't mind fighting Maria for a ridiculous amount of time after this, because as much as Maria is kind of bullshit on no roll, at least, you know, it's a proper fight, it's a slugfest, it's back and forth. This is just something else. And I'm 100% aware that it's my lack of ability to do this, and it's my restrictions that made this so torturous. So if you made it this far in the video, congratulations folks, you've definitely got the fortitude needed to take on this encounter. But if nothing else, it's really good practice at moving your camera while sprinting, it's really good practice at, you know, keeping an eye on multiple targets, and it's probably going to pay off against Shadows, because I did Shadows in New Game Plus 5 without rolling, and if I can do it in New Game Plus 5 without rolling and taking damage, then I should be able to do it in New Game Plus 6, but I'm so, like, I'm dreading the run back so much. The run back makes me want to stop playing Bloodborne. It's kind of same as Martyr Ligarius. Martyr Ligarius could be my favourite boss, but the fact I have to run through Cainhurst every time to get back to him makes me want to just, you know, go into the hills and retire and become a feral man, a feral human being, chop wood and eat bugs and shit. It's just not good. There goes another guy with a running attack I didn't mean to do. Watch me roll as well. I've not realised I've rolled. That'd be hilarious. Because that happens, that, folks. You don't think you've rolled, and then you did some kind of panic roll and didn't realise? Ruined it all? I don't think I've rolled. If I have, you know, fuck it. Can't change it now. Also, something I'd love to see in a future Souls game, if they ever come out, I want a toggle in the menu to turn off running attacks. I think that would be fantastic. I'd love to turn kicks off, turn jump attacks off, turn running attacks off. If it was up to me, I'd turn off fucking rolling. Like, just give us toggles for all of these inputs, because it would be fantastic to be able to never get shit we don't want. How many times have you had the perfect punish in a situation, and you've gone to charge an R2, and your character's jumped like a twat, missed, and put you in a bad space? It happens to me a lot. You know, how many times have you been trying to hit a boss, and you've kicked? How many times have you tried to kick, and you've attacked normally and got fucked? Happens all the times in these games, and I don't know why. I'm trying to proc the bleed now, because I'm sick of the fight, and there you go. The meteorites still come, and luckily they don't hit me. But yeah, that fight's trash. If you like that fight, that's awesome. You've got another fight in the game you like. I don't. But there was my level, guys. There's my damage, and here are my Mensis cages to prove that this is the 7th journey. Thank you for watching. You take care now.